You are now listening to or watching the It Takes All Kinds podcast.
Yeah, and if you aren't, you can head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and listen to us now. Or head on over to Drib on YouTube and watch the video version as well.
And if you'd like to stay up to date on when we're releasing a new episode or any other fun information about the podcast, you can give us a follow on Instagram at It Takes All Kinds Podcast and on Twitter at ITAC Podcast. That's ITAK Podcast.
Without saying much else, we hope you enjoy this episode.
I wasn't expecting it to be that short, and I almost just shot.
Oh, shit.
I almost just shot liquid death through my nose. I could feel it like burning on the edge there. Oh, that got me. It was so quick. Hey,
Hello.
the shortest, most dangerous fall.
Yeah.
Ah!
Welcome to the It Takes All Kinds podcast, episode 150. We just we just got done recording a very special episode for you.
Yes.
We're recording this on Monday, January 15th. I think one of the earliest times we've ever recorded an episode.
In the day.
In the day. And you'll be hearing this on Friday, January 19th.
That's right, Gavin. And we gave a little teaser for our biggest fans last week and said that this week was going to be special. And boy, oh boy, was it a special one indeed, Gavin. It's been a long time coming. The big episode we have all been waiting for. You know this man as one half of the legendary comedy duo and television show Tim and Eric, or as the short-tempered movie critic in On Cinema, or maybe as Dougie in the film Bridesmaids, or as the rock and roll superstar known for his albums Fear of Death and High School, as well as his piss-loving band, the Yellow River Boys, or as the host of the hit live show and podcast Office Hours Live, of which I know him best. The one and only Tim Heidecker is on the show today.
Tim Heidecker.
I thought we could harmonize. We kind of harmonized. It worked. We're not going to do it again. Don't push me. Don't push me, tell her.
Yeah, that we were joking about this before the show that I'm Carson's teller to his pen.
Yeah, and we kept it that way.
We kept it that way basically for this entire show. So
it's a little behind the scenes, but I had a loaded gun pointed at Gavin's head the whole time, making sure
off camera,
making sure he wouldn't say anything.
I had a trigger to
cancelable.
He had a string going behind my back all the way to
it was a tripwire.
It was a Rube Goldberg.
I love his music.
Yeah.
It was a great time. We just got done recording it. We're doing this little post-recorded intro. Such a great time. Tim is such a great hang and such a fun person to talk about.
Very knowledgeable.
Very knowledgeable and just a great guy. We can't thank him enough for coming on our show and doing this with us.
Love picking his brain.
Yeah, love picking his brain and his nose, and it was great.
We could do it all.
Yeah, and it was just a really fun time. Super awesome. We got to do some of our segments with him and play a game and lots of fun stuff to look forward to in the next hour. So I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I'm going to let this do the talking, and let's get right into it, Gavin. Here is our interview with the one and only Tim Heidecker. Well, Tim, thank you for coming on and doing this with us. We appreciate you being here on our small little show. We know you've been kind of doing some other podcasts that are much more important than this little thing, so we really appreciate it.
No such thing as an important podcast.
That is true. I've never heard one. But we thank you for coming on here. So you kind of got a busy year coming up, a lot of great things that are happening. You got the Oscar special in March, and then a week later you have Tim Fest, and then you just announced that you're going on tour with Waxahachie later this summer.
Yep.
And then right now, On Cinema season 14 is coming out, which is great. It's so good. I've been watching it, and Gavin's been watching some of the clips.
I've been getting clips on TikTok.
Yeah.
Someone's posting the clips, and
it's
on the official account.
It's so good. And then I just dipped into the podcast after you mentioned it on Office Hours. And the super loud Carrabba's commercials were so funny and out of place, and just like so unnecessary for right now because I don't even know how many Carrabba's even exist anymore.
Yeah, that's like an old callback to like I don't know what season it was, but in the earlier seasons there was uh, uh, some kind of mo thing where Greg and I were talking about meeting at Carrabba's to kind of that was our summit point where we would like
Oh,
get
okay.
together. So it's a bit of a deep cut callback Carrabba's, but yeah, I don't know if it still exists, but um, yeah, there was a lot of back and forth with between Chris and Eric and me mostly about getting the levels right because we wanted to like first of all, we're shame on your co-host there for not being a high
I
network
know.
subscriber. Uh, we've spent
Stupid
a lot
teller.
of energy and time like making sure that like you kind of have to watch the show, you kind of have to pay for it, and that's how
Right.
we fund the show entirely. Like there's no other revenue source for making the show. It's entirely subscriber based. So, and that people grumble about that, but whatever, that's just how it works. There's no other way to do it. But we just conceptually had this idea that the show would exist as a podcast, and for that to work, it's like it just kind of has to be out there. But we wanted it to be so unpleasant
Yeah.
to and such a disaster that you kind of can't really like at some
Right.
point it become impossible to really, but it's like Eric was saying, like it's actually kind of it's not a bad listen despite like even if you took the ads out, like it still works comedically. It's sort of like office hours, like people still listen to the podcast, but we try to make it a better experience to watch it. But
Right.
anyway, it's mostly a conceptual joke about podcasts, about how ads. I always like, I'm a big baseball fan, and if you listen to the Dodgers, I don't know if this is for everybody else. I assume it is, but if you listen on the MLB app to a game, the sound quality of the game is much worse than the ads they pump
Mm.
in. And I think that's true for some podcasts too, but so if I'm listening to the Dodgers and it's like it's a quieter game and then the ad breaks in, it's like it jolts you.
Yeah.
And
It scares you.
yeah, so that's the joke we're going for there. And I
Yeah.
think as we keep rolling them out, you're going to find the episodes have way more ads than actual content, and then we're playing with some other like sound jokes that will happen throughout the season.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so great. And I love that your niche is making fun of podcasts in that way. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the set because I'd have to assume that's obviously inspired by Patrick Bet David. I would assume,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Because I haven't
Yeah.
seen many people point it out, but maybe I just haven't been paying close enough attention.
I've seen it a little bit. Yeah, enough people have noticed it. But yeah, I don't know how many people in our world are aware of that show at all. Like I've
Right.
talked to some friends and they're like, I don't, and it's like, yeah, stay away. Like definitely don't get dragged into the rabbit hole.
Right. Well, and it's just it's a weird because I had heard about PBD before you bringing it up, and then I think I dove into it just to like get a feel for what was going on, and
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense for him to even have a podcast, which is
right.
so funny because he has so much money, and it's like, what is the point of you having this
He
show?
has this energy of being like kind of over it a little bit lately.
Yeah.
I've been noticing like he's listening to these other guys argue. He's like, all right, we got to move things along now. We got to move it on because this is crazy.
Yeah.
So, like you could see him wanting to get the hell out of there.
Right.
But I get drawn in watching. I mean, I do watch a lot of like PDB and I watch a lot of Tim Pool. Sometimes there's just like, I find it, even though I disagree with like 90% of what they're saying, there's something like kind of entertaining about
Yeah.
watching these people talk. So in a way, I get the appeal. I get how people are drawn in, um, even though like it's a grift and even though they're horrible people.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's like something about like I mean, compare that to like the Tonight Show or Jimmy Kimmel. Like, I don't watch those shows at all.
Right.
and I probably agree with those people more about the world and everything. But I don't know. I get the appeal of like just people talking. I get that. You know, it's kind of why podcasts are very popular right now. I guess I'm not alone in that.
No, right, exactly. And yeah, and it's you guys did it so well, and I love that you got tanned up for it.
Yeah,
And I love
or
Joey.
more like burned up for
Yeah,
it. But
burned up for it. And which is funny because I'm assuming this parallel was made on purpose, but for you to be calling yourself Tiamato and it just spells tomato, and then you're red was
yeah.
really funny.
There's a little bit of, yes. There's wonderful things that always happen with the show that we don't always intend to happen, but kind of naturally happen. And
Mhm.
there was a little bit of like we realize it after a little like there's like I think we Giamatti like it's I mean this goes a little into the weeds a little bit,
Sure.
but Giamatto's just like made up name. I think we came up with it. I probably came up with it to be like only existing in the world of the high point system. And then we liked that idea of there being this guy, so we kind of cast for that guy, brought him into the world. And then it just was funny to have, we don't know what his first name is, and then I sort of get under his wing and become T Amato, and then only then do we go, oh yeah, T Amato, tomato, like
Yeah.
like it's
Right.
not like we're not reverse engineering it, or we are reverse engineering the comedy a little bit. And then somebody like the fans are so smart, like we were talking about this idea, like we're always thinking about what kind of health issues or what kind of like sort of pop medicine I'm involved with
Right.
and health cures, and we're laughing about like getting 10 hours of sunlight a
Yeah.
day and how like there's all these movements like about tanning your asshole
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen those.
breatharian people that think they can live off of breathing
Mhm.
air only and all this stuff. So we're like it's a little connected to that. But then somebody on Reddit was like, "What a coincidence that tomatoes need 10 hours of sunlight."
Oh, oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like there's no way we're thinking of that many levels deep with
No.
it. But it's fun when those things kind of just happen and the
Yeah.
fans get to play around with it.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. It's great. Um, I want to play a little game with you if you're up for it. And I
Yeah.
think you'll know this game pretty well because I'm pretty sure you invented it. And it's definitely sure, no thanks, or fuck that, which is the
I've been
game that.
waiting.
What's that?
Yeah, I've been waiting for someone to play this to challenge me to this game.
Oh, well, perfect. Then here we
Great.
are. So if people are listening and don't know, Tim came up with this game on office hours, first with Tom to play with Tom Sharpling, and then I know you played it with Steve Albini, and then I know Tom Sharpling played it with Patton Oswalt when you guys did that kind of switcheroo,
Yeah, yeah.
and there might be another one mixed in there. But so
Yeah.
Tim always does it with people, but we thought it'd be fun to kind of turn the tables on him and do it with him. So I'm going to pass it over to Gavin. And Gavin, we have a list, and we'll get through them quick because we have quite a few. But Gavin will rattle them off, and then what Tim has to do is either answer definitely, sure, no thanks, but God bless if that's your thing, or fuck that.
Okay.
Sound good? So whenever you're ready, Gavin,
Okay.
you just
Yep,
read them off,
just
and
read
then
'em
Tim
off.
will answer.
World War II documentaries.
Definitely.
The 1993 Philadelphia Phillies team.
Definitely.
Avocado toast.
Sure.
Larry the Cable Guy.
Fuck that.
Bill Maher's hairline.
No thanks.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No thanks.
Mike Tyson.
Fuck that.
Peeing in the shower.
Definitely.
There we go. We have another believer.
Deviled eggs.
Definitely.
MMA.
MMA what is that again?
Mixed martial arts,
Yeah.
Mixed martial arts.
or like UFC, MMA or UFC.
Yeah.
No thanks.
The Office.
Sure.
The British Office.
Definitely.
K-pop.
No thanks.
Phil Braun.
Definitely.
Mountain Dew.
No thanks. No thanks.
Bill O'Reilly's history books.
Fuck that.
Ingrown hairs.
I mean, fuck that.
DJ Doug Pound's fake ad jingles.
Sure.
The Dave
little long, but-
Yeah, a little long. The Dave Matthews Band.
No thanks.
Panera's Charged Lemonade.
Fuck that. That's a killer.
It's a killer.
Theo Vaughn.
Great poison.
It is. Theo Vaughn.
No thanks.
The Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Definitely.
There we go. You like the next
I
one?
do like this one. The Third Amendment, which is no soldier shall be quartered in a time of peace.
Sure.
The Colbert Report.
No thanks.
Vic Berger coughing into a microphone.
Fuck that.
CVS.
Sure.
Snuggies.
No thanks.
And finally, hangnails.
I have one now. Yeah. No thanks.
Oh, not even a fuck that.
Fuck that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Just okay with hangnails.
Yeah.
Well, great. You got them all right.
Pass the test.
I love the game because there's like, what do you do at the end? You're just like, okay, that's
Well,
it.
I
There's
think we just get it's not about the results, it's about the
Right.
game. We're
Right.
playing it, and we get to know the person a little better, and
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why I like
hopefully
it.
maybe it leads to some discussion about some of those things. But
Right. Well, yeah. Have you read any of Bill O'Reilly's books? I was going to ask you. I wanted to stop
no,
there.
and that was one maybe I could rethink if I knew more about them. I don't. I assume they're like fairly nonpartisan and fairly like meant for like a general audience
Yeah.
understanding of a subject.
Yeah. Exactly.
So maybe like a no thanks, because I think you could probably gain that information from other sources.
Yep. No. Exactly. I read his like Killing Lincoln and Killing JFK books, and I did enjoy them. But like you said, if you can just find that somewhere else and don't have to give him any of your money.
Do your
And
own
I'm sure
research.
there's a ghostwriter, right? I'm sure there's
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
that's
Yep. Yep.
somebody doing
Has to
90% of
be.
the work.
Yeah. No, it's literally like big Bill O'Reilly and then below it, and this other guy whose name I couldn't
On
even.
Colbert, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Someone whose name I can't remember.
Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the ghostwriter. So Gavin and I had the privilege of, we talked about this before we started recording, but we had the privilege of seeing you live here in St. Louis, which was great, and it was cool to see the progression of the Two Tims tour, because I got to see it in Chicago on the first run of the tour, and then, which was kind of like towards the beginning, and then I also got to see it in New York when you guys played there for a couple nights. And then when you came to St. Louis, which was a year later, I think that was, nothing against those times, but that was my favorite, just because it felt like you guys really kind of locked that in and figure out the flow of it and kind of knew each other a lot better. And obviously the stand-up made me laugh a lot, but I think the times where I laughed the most were during the music set, because you guys were throwing in bits into there, and like the Johnny Depp thing of putting all the
Scarves on.
and stuff was great, and it was just a really fun time. And then so now in the summer, you just announced you're going to be opening up for Waxahachie, which I would have to guess is your first time in a long time opening for somebody, especially with music.
Yeah, I've done it with stand-up, where I've opened up for musicians. I've opened up for some people that it's not like I think I said on the show, it's not like the ideal situation. I mean the tour, the Two Tims tour, both summers, especially the last summer, which we had we had a lot of shows under our belt, and we get, like you said, it felt a little more dialed in, and like that's as good as it gets. Like especially the pageant where you saw, which was like that show was very special. It was sold out. It was a big room. The energy was great. The room was great it was just a great, every room's different. That room was great. Everybody felt kind of there and close. they had the sides going, and the pit was full, and I felt very much in control, and my voice was in good shape, and everybody was healthy. It was like I can't think of anything negative to say about that night.
Yeah.
Um, I might end up having a really fun time on the opening thing. I don't really know what to expect. I think there's crossover. I'm always surprised that there's a bit of more crossover than I think, with these different acts. And but the pressure's also a little off for me. I feel
Right.
like, Waxahachie's the headliner. It's her, and she's great, and I love her. I like her a lot personally. And Ellie's in the band, and she's in my band,
Oh, I didn't know that.
um, there's a lot of harmony there.
Hmm.
But my goal is just to go out there, play 40 minutes of my music, try to bring people in. Know that a lot of people there are there to see her, and I know what that's like as an
Yeah.
audience member. And it's not a lot of shows. It's like 10 shows or something.
Hmm.
So, it hopefully like her audience will be like, oh man, I love it's that thing of like bringing in more people to the tent. And what happened on the Two Tims tour was there was a fair amount of people that I think bought their tickets to see the stand-up guy, and ended up like walking away a fan of the music,
Right.
and that's hopefully what will happen with the Waxahachie tour. And if not, it's not my fault.
Right.
I'm doing my job, and
Doing your
uh,
thing.
get to. It's nice to have something on the calendar. It's like we're doing this in a couple weeks, for a couple weeks, and keep the band kind of together. Although it'll be a little bit of a different iteration. Vic can't go, so
Right.
which works out kind of good. It's obviously great to have Vic, but there's something a little that we've done a few shows where it's just a four piece, and there's something kind of fun about it being kind of a leaner, um, smaller sound. Hopefully we'll kind of have this be an off year, and then I have a new record that hopefully will come out later this year, and
Nice.
then next summer, kind of maybe do another big music tour with the
Yeah.
original audience.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. Do you think that'll be next year's tour will be a Two Tims, or is it just going to be music? Are you trying to kind of
Good
get rid of
question.
that?
I mean, I don't think I want to do another I don't want to do the Two Tims as I probably don't want to do the leather jacket, green shirt guy every night again for a while.
Yeah.
I think, but last year in LA, I spent a lot of time doing stand up that wasn't exactly in character, and it
Hmm.
was a little more, maybe closer to sort of the office hours comedy,
Yeah.
like a little realer, a little more connected to my real life. Some audio, some AV component to it. Like I've been kind of doing these like kind of slideshow multimedia things. So I think there's a version of a tour that's like a more holistic comedy, and music, the band, and then stopping with in the live show there's that moment, there's that section where I do the Lenny Bruce song
Yeah.
by myself, and that's pretty much a comedy. That's like a comedy segment.
Right.
And so I think there's a tour I could do that's like a little more where the comedy, like the second half of the Two Tims tour, there's comedy within the music.
Hmm.
I could talk about music in a funny way, or talk about, the texts I've been getting from my mom, and, stuff like that, that I think will get people to laugh. And
Yeah.
also been a show that I've wanted to do and tour that I can't say is going to happen, but I hope it will happen, is like, because I've been doing some shows in LA with Fred where we come out and just kind of riff and improvise,
Hmm.
and have a very loose structure. I really want to do that out of town, like do a little run of those shows,
That would be really
Yeah,
cool.
that'd be awesome.
play some music with maybe, Ellie, and make it like a more intimate evening with kind of night. So there's lots of ways to tour. I mean, it's a big, the thing that was good about the Two Tims tour is it was like, if you're going to go out there and spend a month on the road and put all this and invest in the bus and the band and the time off and committing to it, you really want to present like a big show and
Yeah.
present and make people really feel like they got to go see that show. So, anyways, I don't want to just like, it takes a little bit of time to figure out what's the biggest bang for your buck, or what's the way to do it the right way that brings enough people in so that you can sell tickets to afford to do it. And, it's like a lot
Yeah.
to consider.
Right. Yeah. And there's always fun stuff you want to do, but at the end of the day, there's also like a business aspect to it. I'm sure with
Yeah.
like, making it make sense financially and everything like that. But that's awesome. That's cool. So do you guys have any plans of like playing any new music on this tour at all, or is it okay?
Yeah, I think you'll get new tunes at the Tim Fest and then new
Oh, nice.
tunes in the fall for
That's
sure.
awesome. That'll be great. Yeah. And it would be cool. I know you talked about this too, but of doing like Tim Fest, not as like a touring thing, but in other states too.
Yeah,
I
that's the
know
other
is the
thing.
goal.
If it works out with the Portland dates, which is, I think it will, but it's a lot of work to put this together,
Mhm.
and a lot of people involved, and but if it works out, then that becomes kind of a template where maybe we could do that a couple times a year in the bigger cities, and everybody flies in and
Yeah.
does their thing for the weekend, and we'll see.
Yeah, which would be awesome. That'd be super cool. Kind of talking about everything that you have going on. I like to ask this. I like to ask people who are kind of in this field this question, and even like on a lower tier, like people who are just doing like producing jobs or whatever. How do you balance and manage everything that you have going on? Because you have so much and it's all great, and you have so many outlets of ways of expressing yourself and doing your thing. But I see that, and I think about what that would be like, and that just seems so overwhelming, which is, some
Mhm.
people like that, but how do you kind of keep that all together and keep doing everything that you're doing?
I've got a great support. I always really try to stop and appreciate the fact that for everything I do, there are other people involved that are kind of doing the more unpleasant parts of it, or the annoying things. Matt with office hours is dealing with the schedule and booking guests and keeping people paid and happy, and managing the operations. And Katie Dolan, who helps with office on cinema, is again doing some of that dirty work of
Hmm.
keeping the money together. And so there are people that I think do maybe some of the more time consuming aspects of it. And then I've got just, the live side. There's people that help, like everything you can think of that I do, there's other people that are with me on that journey.
Definitely.
Which is a very corny thing to say, but
Yeah.
it's true. And then it's like, calendar. It's just really like, some things don't take very long. Some things, um, ideas come very quickly, or they don't come at all. But when they do come, they're there. And
Yeah.
then, so we're working on the Oscar special right now. Um, the way that goes is Eric and Greg and Katie and I just say, all right, when can you meet? Everybody looks at their calendar and says, all right, Eric's working on the rehearsal right now. And so, he's not around, but he is on the weekends. And so we say, all right, let's do Sunday mornings till, 10 till 3, for as much as we can,
Right.
and if we get 3 of those big sessions in, well, by now we have pretty much, looking at, the outline, we have pretty much the bones of the special. We
Hmm.
have the big things figured out.
Right.
And then you can delegate stuff to other people. You know, you could say big broad strokes, like this is gonna happen. Here's who we need, and here's blah blah blah. Here are the things you need to know. And then it becomes a dialogue with those people. It becomes questions and answers and problem solving. Um, and so most of the time, like that, those Sunday mornings and those meetings are really fun because you're just sitting around
Yeah.
riffing and making each other laugh and trying to sort of solve problems in a fun way, trying to close loops um and then come back, Katie's there to go like, well, actually we can't do that, or that's
Yeah.
going to be too expensive, and you just make it work. So that's all fun. And then the big knowing, like, that when the Oscars are, there's a big block out in my calendar, and like if
Right.
somebody calls and wants me to, I'm doing a bunch of I can't like really announce it, but I'm doing a bunch of like three different acting things
Nice.
this next couple of months.
Yeah.
Will make office hours become a very hard thing to juggle. Again, that's like,
Yeah.
so I get a job going to Canada for a couple weeks to work on something. First person I call is Matt. I say,
Mhm.
all right, can we talk about calendar? All right, let's look at it, you know?
Right. Matt's
And
Matt's excited.
I go to my agent and lawyer and say, I love this opportunity. This is great. Here's when I am not available because I'm doing Oscar special and I'm doing Tim Fest. And they go, okay, well, let me get back to them and blah, blah, blah. And there's about, I mean, I'm just talking literally the past month or two, what's been going on,
Right.
where they go back and they say, can you make this work? Yeah, I can do that. No, I can't do that. All right, we're gonna make it work. And you just hope it all works.
Yeah.
And this looks like it's gonna work, which I'm grateful for. And that's just how it's been going for the past several years. There's part of me that wants to say, like, hey, it would be great if I just got, let's say, cast on a show that is going to be every week, 22 episodes. This is my life,
Right.
Mhm.
um, and I still think I could do these other things if I knew what that was.
Yeah.
It would just change it a little bit. But I don't know. It's been working out. There are days when I say, all right, something's got to give. I can't do all these things.
Mhm.
And some things are harder than other things, and some things don't seem to have aren't worth it, kind of. So, but I think I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and it's worked out so far. And you know, there's always very productive times, then there's times where nothing's really going on. And
Right.
sometimes you need those times to like sit around and think and write and um, you know, go and experience life.
Yeah. That isn't just working because it just.
And
Do you feel like you in those times of rest? Do you kind of like? Do you ever get stressed that you're not doing something?
sometimes I
Yeah.
feel that, I feel like there have been times when I'm like, well, I guess that's it. I guess
Right.
that's my little run around that I joked about this the other over the break or something with some friends. Like, I've been here 20 years and I guess it hasn't worked out, so I'm moving back home.
Yeah.
Um, um, but then like I said, there's these three gigs coming up that are all different, and one of them's fairly, I mean, it's hard to say what's big and what's not, but they're all good, it's real work, that
Yeah.
it's in, that's not like, these are not student films, these
You're
are,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
it's like, okay, I'm in the club. I'm still in the club. Apparently,
Yeah.
I'm still in the club. And, um, you know, that might just be how it goes. Like, I might just be a guy that, um, works steady, is not, I'm not Ryan fucking Gosling or anything,
Right.
but,
You weren't in
like,
the Barbie movie,
Yeah.
to my knowledge.
no, but, Michael Cera is,
Right.
and, uh, that's a good career, and
Yeah.
like that, I think, um, So yeah, my perception of where I'm at in life is always different than other people's. Some people are like, well, you're washed up and you haven't done anything good in 10 years. And some people are like, you're a movie star. I'm
Right,
like, I don't
right.
see myself, I don't see myself in either of those
Yeah,
categories.
Yeah, I miss the old Tim.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
old Tim. Yeah, and one of the things I was gonna ask is kind of on that, and I think you might have answered it anyways, but like, do you ever get scared that you're not relevant? Because I felt like you said, I think I'm definitely one of those people who's like, I feel like everything you've done and everything you do is either groundbreaking or you're just like, you're always staying on top of things. I never like, there's people who will do things and it's great, and then they try something and it doesn't work, and then you see them fall off. Whereas like I've always seen you kind of stay afloat and do things that are groundbreaking and new and stuff like that. But is that ever like a stress in your brain where you're like, like you said, one day I'm just gonna, be forgotten or whatever?
I'm sure, yeah, there's a little bit of that interior monologue going on. I don't know, like it doesn't, I probably the only thing it does is maybe like drives me to keep doing stuff in a little bit. Um, yeah, I mean, I think relevancy and like popularity and stuff is so impossible to like manage and control, and so you just have to not worry about it.
Right.
There are things like the Tim Pool show. I get, like that has like something like 50,000 people watching live a week.
It's so
And I'm
crazy.
just like, what is that? Like, who are all these
Right.
people? And like, and there's, there's shitty cooking shows that are like a woman with her crock pot throwing in like Kroger frozen,
Chicken breasts.
Yeah,
vegetables
shrimp.
that
Yeah.
have like 62 million views on
Right.
YouTube. Like, I can't keep track of how the culture is working right now and how I fit into it and stuff. But you know, I don't I'm aware of it, but I try to not like let it consume me. And
Right. Yeah, because I feel like it's so there used to be like a point where I felt that people were like, if you do this, you'll succeed, or if you like as far as like what you're doing and kind of content creation, however you look at that. But I
yeah,
feel like now it's just become there's so much different stuff and different things that people want, where it's just like just do what you want to do, and hopefully an audience will find you that way. And I feel like,
definitely.
yeah, I feel like that's the better way to go about it than to like, I don't know, try and
It is creating a
do whatever
weird
trend.
culture, though. I think it's creating a weird um fractured culture with there's not a real ex, shared cultural experience. I like the Golden Globes being an example of like, I don't know, I never heard of Joe Coy before.
Me
Have
Like,
neither.
you?
No, I had
No.
never heard of him.
and
And Gavin's like constantly
I'm constantly
online.
consuming stuff, so he was a completely random person I've never
Right.
seen.
and it's really becomes hard to like know how to comment on or even joke about the world or joke about famous, like, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on out there, like what people know about.
Right. Yeah. Well, and comedians can't make jokes anymore either.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, you can't.
It's impossible.
I mean,
yeah,
I get like there is obviously you're joking and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
idea that I mean that idea is absurd on some level, but also it is I can imagine it being challenging to know what the common ground for what people even know about to joke about
Right.
is.
right.
Yeah.
So like
It, exactly. It's like,
like
yeah,
that.
because that like the what I said is obviously a joke, but I know what you mean where it's like you don't know what people are gonna know.
Yeah.
What is there to joke about? Like I think you brought up somewhat. This is kind of the same, but you brought up a little while ago in office hours that you made a joke about Eric Clapton to an audience, and everybody was
Yeah.
like, don't even know who that is. Like they were lost. Like there was people who didn't know who that was.
World's greatest father, by the way.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I don't. I think that's gonna happen. And like, I was brought up in a very controlled, fairly controlled media environment where, your sources of information were fairly limited.
Right.
And for me, it was like, cable television, which, you didn't have really if you wanted to tape something on VHS, you could do that. But otherwise, you just were kind of watching what was on, which
Hmm.
is mostly what I did. And I think I would tape like maybe I would tape Saturday Night Live so I could watch it the next day if I wasn't going to stay up. You could tape certain things, or you could buy tapes in stores, um, and then magazines and the radio. I mean, that really was it.
Right.
And so, there was a limited amount of magazines, and if I subscribed to Rolling Stone, I was given sort of the culture that I should care about.
Yeah.
And that they did a pretty, I think they tried to be inclusive and all that kind of stuff, and make it broad. But I was taught there was like a hierarchy to what was important presented through the Rolling Stone and Spin, and there was obviously counterculture going on as well, and there was smaller things that if your friends and somebody at school was into like the punk scene or the hardcore scene, then you would find out about that. But MTV, Rolling Stone, Spin magazine, for suburb kids, like that was really where you found out about what you should care about.
Right.
And it's pretty much affected who I am, it's
Yeah.
there's a broad world of music and movies and comedy and literature out there that often got ignored. And, you know, it's amazing to keep finding new stuff, and it's great to keep finding new stuff from the past 100 years of recorded, uh, you know, media out there, that wasn't in that lexicon of culture presented
Yeah.
to us. Yeah, so my like go to the Eric Clapton thing. It's almost unthinkable to me that somebody would not know who that is, but of
Right.
course they wouldn't know why would they?
Yeah.
If they're born in 1999 or 2000 and now
Yeah.
they're 23 years old.
Right. Which is the exact age
Yeah,
Gavin and I are.
that's
But
exactly
we
it.
know who Eric Clapton is. But
Yeah.
That was because like
Well,
we consumed it on the radio,
Yeah.
or that was like who we were taught to kind of be
Right.
like,
We
oh,
had-
see, this guy plays guitar.
yeah, we had parents who would show us that stuff
yeah.
Yeah,
and knew about
Sure,
that.
and your parents would, that's what I do for my kids. I show them, hey, these are the Beatles. This you have to understand. This is Ringo, and this is Paul, and this is John. That John is singing on this one. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess that's a way to do it. But if you were born after Tears in Heaven came out, that's kind of the last time Eric Clapton was culturally relevant
Right.
in any kind of significant way. So, um, and those, I mean, the baby boomers are still very much in charge of. There's still a lot of gatekeepers there, and I think
Yeah.
they are making sure that there's still these documentaries made about Bob Dylan or the Beatles, or like that's still a big part of the economics of the media right now. I think is keeping those cultural big ones alive.
Hmm.
But that's not going to last for much longer, I don't think.
Yeah. And or we'll start seeing, documentaries about people who are, right now, who are
Yeah,
important right
Backstreet
now.
Boys.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on from that, we do a segment on our show every week, and we want to involve you in it if you're up for it. And it's called Nextdoor Drama. I'm assuming you've probably heard of the Nextdoor app or website.
Yeah, I get it delivered to my email. I don't really look at it very much, but I see
Right.
it pop. Yeah.
That's how I found out about it. Is I signed up for it for whatever reason. In case if people at home don't know, Nextdoor is just like a blog posting website for your neighborhood up to like a certain mile radius. And so where Gavin and I live, we're in like a suburb outside of St. Louis. And so we have kind of like a lot of interesting people who post on there, and they're just kind of like, that's kind of their social media.
Yeah.
And I would get those articles emailed to me, and I started looking at them and like reading through the comments, because there's like hundreds of comments per post, and it's like a post about nothing. And it just like always goes into this weird area, and I really enjoyed looking at those, and I was like, well, what's a way that like we can talk about it that would be fun? And so we came up with this thing called Nextdoor Drama, where we'll go onto Nextdoor, we'll take a blog entry in the comments, and then we like script it out pretty short, and we like do it like a short story. Like kind of the way I thought about it recently was, it's like an Orson Welles like radio play. Like we'll do like a radio play of it. And usually like
It's a cold read for me.
Yeah, it's usually a cold read for Gavin. And so we have one, and if you're up for doing it, I'll send you the Google Doc link, and it'll be scripted out.
I see my script. It seems I got it.
Sweet.
I get the whole thing.
You got it. Okay, so this week, sorry, I'm trying to get the first page. This week's Nextdoor Drama is titled, Am I a Helicopter Mom? So I will be playing Susan, who's a nervous mother. Tim will be playing Tony, who has a real chip on his shoulder about everything. And Gavin will be Jill, who's trying to be the voice of reason. So, Gavin, if you want to hit the song, and then we will get into it. This week on Nextdoor Drama. Am I a helicopter mom? I am not trying to raise a mama's boy, yet I am not sure where to draw the line. My son is going with another kid, which is an 18 years old Marine, to a local gun range. My son has no experience with firearms and is relying heavily on his buddy, which invited him. My son is a freshman in college and did not need to tell me anything, but he did, so here I am, a nervous Nancy. I want to go with my spy suit and dark shades on so bad, but that won't work either. Suggestions?
Let him go. Nothing bad is going to happen at a gun range, and at his age, he should be making his own decisions.
As long as he makes good decisions. The ability to reason is not fully developed until the age of around 25.
Wow. So you think you should be controlling your kids until they're 25?
She is a worried mom, not a helicopter mom. I was nervous the first time my son went to the gun range too. Everything turned out fine, and he's a good shot. My son is my youngest, and I'm finding it hard to let him go. It's normal.
No, she's a helicopter. She tried to go along.
She didn't try to go along. She said she felt like wearing a spy suit and dark glasses and tagging along, but knew it would not work.
Did she try to go sling? She tried to get the young man's father to go.
Call the gun range and discuss their safety protocols. You could also make your own visit for yourself.
Unless the mother shoots herself, she'll have no way of judging whether or not their safety protocols are adequate or not.
In today's world we live in, best to pray daily for our young people. They are under lots of pressure to try and fit in with their peers.
That was great.
Thank you. That was perfect. I forgot to say at the beginning, I didn't want to direct you in any way, but we always say, respect the grammar and punctuation and spelling as it's written. And you did that. And I didn't have to say anything.
I got it. Listen, I get it.
Hey, I know. I didn't even need to say
these
it.
kind of things implicitly.
Yeah.
I love that. I did a bit similar to this I've been doing this kind of for a few years on stage, where I go into these Beatles Facebook groups and find
oh my God.
they're back. It's crazy. It's so funny. People get so mad and snipey. It's so terrible. I don't know what to do about it. Like, I kind of am off Twitter now. Um, and then I've been like looking on Threads, and you go
Mm,
over to Threads, and it's like, well, this sucks too.
right.
Yeah.
It's not any better.
Everyone's like, everyone's kind of nasty, and like everywhere you go online, people are just kind of like, really? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe try again harder. Like, why? Why are you acting like this?
Right. Exactly.
Why are we behaving like little children?
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's free to be a hater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Freedom of speech, I guess. What would you did you like talk about those Beatles Facebook pages somewhere? Was that like an office hours thing?
No, I've just been doing it live. Like I've collected a
Oh,
few like that are really funny, and then just been posting, like doing a little PowerPoint
I like
presentation of
that.
yeah.
That's fun because yeah, I can't even imagine how in deep
A,
that can go.
a Beatles Facebook group might go.
God, that would be crazy. Um, one last segment, and then we'll let you go. That we do every week. It's kind of like the rec center on office hours, but we call it "What You Listening To." Self-explanatory. Where Gavin and I or a guest will recommend a song or an album or artist that we've been listening to in the past week to each other and to the audience. So if you want to do that, if you need a second to think about what you want to recommend, Gavin and I can go ahead and go first, or if you want to
Go
go.
for it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go first, Gavin?
Yeah. This week I'm recommending Lady Madonna by the Beatles.
Speaking of the Beatles.
Speaking of the Beatles, this song was stuck in my head all weekend. Yeah, I love that bass line. So there, like, that's where, that was kind of the whole reason why I listened to it, is because there's a song on Olivia Rodrigo's new record that's like Bad Idea, right? And the bass line is it's a little different. There's a little bit different syncopation there, but it's very similar, kind of like a running, kind of like bum 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 bum.
A driving bass.
Yeah, very very nice, very nice. And so after that, I was like, this is Lady Madonna. And ever since
Yeah.
that, it's been stuck in my head. So Lady Madonna by the Beatles is what I'm recommending this week.
Nice. What album is that on? I'm not a Beatles head like you. You and Tim are.
It's actually a single, so it's
Oh, it's a
just,
single.
It's on one.
Past Masters. It's on one. Yeah, it's on some of their compilations, but it's
Okay.
not on an album.
Okay. This week I am listening to. I kind of been getting bored of the same old kind of hardcore metal stuff that I've listened to usually, and that the audience is probably tired of hearing me talk about. So I kind of dipped back into some 90s alt stuff to try and find something I hadn't listened to before. And I started listening to the Afghan Wigs, which I had never listened
Yeah,
to.
I remember them. Again, I also never dipped in deeply. They
Right.
never grabbed me, but
Yeah, I never heard anything by them, but I buy and sell vintage clothing, and vintage Afghan Wigs shirts are like super expensive, and I never knew why. So I dove into them and listened to a song, and then kind of just picked an album from there. Really, really liked it. It's definitely different than that kind of like 90s alt stuff. I mean, I can pick to where it seems familiar to me. But I'm listening to their 1998 album titled 1965, which is super annoying. But it's great. It's awesome. It has songs like, what was the song? Oh, 66 is really good. John the Baptist. Super cool. It's kind of like I said, alt stuff, but it feels very like epic. There's like layers to it and different things going on.
Cool.
It's all very sexual, which is a little obnoxious.
That's why you got into it, right?
Yeah, it's just I love that sexual rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm listening to this week. How about you, Tim?
I'll say I've been listening to the band Suicide,
Nice. Yeah.
which it totally was a blind spot for me, but I'm reading this book. I just finished this book that Steve Hyden wrote about Bruce Springsteen,
Mhm.
about the Born in the USA album. And I knew that Suicide was actually a big influence for Bruce in the
Really?
mid 70s. He was a big fan, which is maybe strange, but then when you hear Suicide, it makes a lot, like especially in Nebraska and mostly Nebraska, but there's like definite overlap going on. And so I knew that, and then reading this book again, I was like, I should really go and and dig in. And it was not what I expected at all. And I mean, I think you hear the name Suicide and I think something much more hardcore or
Right.
punk metal. This is like all synths and this very strange sort of crooner singer.
Yeah.
But and very dark and very like weird, arty, avant-garde kind of music. But there's also like just great music in there. So the song I recommend if you don't know them, Dream Baby Dream,
Okay.
which
Nice.
Bruce also covered, but
Oh,
I think the original by Suicide is better. It's cooler, but it's cool that Bruce and their debut album from 1977 is pretty cool too. So
nice.
check it out.
Yeah, whenever you mentioned it on Office Hours too, and I had never heard of them, so I did a little listen, and yeah, I've never heard anything like that, especially that's from then.
Yeah,
And he's very arty and very lyrically is like very I don't know if I want to say angsty, but like like political commentary stuff in there too.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
very alive. It feels like
Yeah.
very like there's an energy to it. Like the drum machine is like
Right.
like very like intense and cool. And I love when you can hear the influence, even though it gets so you get like, oh, when Bruce screams, like when he goes like he does these things, like, oh, that comes from this, that comes from here. Like, I love because I love Bruce so much that I just love putting those connections together and seeing how it's all kind of connected.
Yeah. No, that's fun. I like that. I like doing that too with whenever you find out people's influences like that. But yeah, well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on here and doing this. We really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. This
Yeah.
is a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you back on again if you're up for it to
Let's
talk
do it
more
next
about stuff.
week.
Let's do it next week,
Yeah,
same
of course.
time.
Mhm.
You'll not be a co-host, but you'll just be a reoccurring guest that's on every
Well,
week.
now
Yeah.
you're gonna get when this comes out, you'll get the big office hours plug.
Oh, sweet. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I'll
You
take
get
it.
some listeners. See
Yeah.
your subscriber base go up.
Would love that.
No, it's great to talk to you guys, and hope you get some relief from the weather soon.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Hope so. Well, thanks, Tim, and I'll see you on Thursday.
See you Thursday. Bye, guys.
See you then.
See ya.
Thank you, Tim. There's the balloons for you.
Balloons.
I
So
don't know
exciting.
why those happen.
Hey guys, it's Carson here, jumping in right at the end to let you know that if you are a fan of the Tim Heidecker expanded universe, and especially if you are a fan of the Office Hours Live podcast that Tim does weekly, you will be delighted to know that Gavin and I have done interviews with DJ Doug Pound, Doug Lucenhop, who is one of Tim's co-hosts on Office Hours Live, as well as one of the original editors of Tim and Eric, as well as Vic Berger, who is one of Tim's co-hosts on Office Hours Live, as well as a very funny editor. You may have seen his edits. And as well as producer Captain Matt Carlin, the producer of Tim's podcast, Office Hours Live. We have an interview with all three of those guys as well. If you would like to go check those out, I'll put a little playlist below in the description of this video or audio podcast that you're listening to, and you can go check all of those out right now. And thank you guys so much for listening and watching. If you wouldn't mind, a like, a comment, a subscribe helps and goes a long way for us, and we really appreciate it. And we hope you come back again next week for another episode.